How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Armchair Analysis here on YouTube. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week, I guess. I keep forgetting what day it is. I apologize. It's Thursday, so the week's almost over. Hopefully, you all have had a good week so far and have enjoyed the content. Getting ready to make a different transition and a difficult transition because it was not something that I expected to do or even want to do. Um, but there are some things that are going to be changing here. I'm going to save that for Friday's show because I got it jam packed today. We've got probably 30 plus minutes of topics and content to get on here today, and I don't want to waste any time. I don't want to waste any of y'all's time on something so minuscule, but it will be in tomorrow's video. So if you're interested in that, make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. Make sure you stick around for all the content that we have from now all the way up until August when the college football season starts, and even beyond. We're going to be here every single day during the college football season, pretty much talking about whatever we can, whenever we can, and really however we can. So I hope that you guys will stick around and follow along through this process. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got 67 team previews coming up starting in the middle of June, where I'll preview every single Power 4 team leading up to week 0. And then from week 0 to week 1, I'll preview every conference. I'll give my Heisman predictions, my college football playoff predictions. And then we go into week 1, and what a sweet week it's going to be. What an amazing time it's going to be. And I think we can all really say that we are excited. I mean, we are in the middle of May, and it's just going to be really exciting. So hopefully you guys are interested and excited for it. And I appreciate you all tuning in and hanging out for a handful of minutes here. Probably a little more than a handful, but a little bit here on the channel. So we're going to kick it off here today with a handful of news, and then we're going to get into the list today. Top 10 head coaches in college football. That's going to come at the very end. Well, not the very end. It's going to be probably the last 3/4 of this video. However, there are some other things we need to get off of our chest here first. Akron has been declared academically ineligible for the postseason due to again low academic performance. They have an academic performance rating of a 914. I'm not going to get into how all of that works. Just know that that's the number that they have. If you want to learn more about academic performance ratings in college sports, there's ways to find it. But I'm not going to get into all that. Just know that 914 is below the requirement of 930. It's measured over a 4-year average. And this is not a very common punishment. As a matter of fact, Akron is the first team since 2014 Idaho to be handed an academic performance punishment, such as a bowl ban. They had reduced practices last year, and this is Akron, had reduced practices last year, reduced by 25 as punishment for not meeting academic performance rating, which was at 928 last year. It has dropped 14 points since then. The APR was put on hold during COVID and beyond due to the ever-evolving world of transfer portal and college sports as a whole. So we sit here now thinking about how this can happen. And I mean, look, listen, Akron is not particularly, I grew up in Ohio. Akron is not particularly a school that everybody talks about when they want to go for academics to begin with. Akron's not typically anybody's first choice. And I could definitely see, given the way things have gone recently for them, a lack of care and effort into that type of stuff because they're focused on getting better on the field. I'm not here to judge or discredit a team's character or a team's overall abilities based on something so minuscule. What I will say is I don't think it overly matters. I'll be honest, I don't have Akron as of right now, May 8th, to be a group of 5 representative in the playoff, and I don't have them as a bowl team as of right now. So do with that information what you will. I don't think this really matters as much as we make it out to, other than the fact that it is back and it can happen to any of the 136 teams that we have here in the FBS level. I'm going to shift over towards recruiting for just a moment. The number 1 quarterback in the 2026 class, Jared Curtis, commits to Georgia over Oregon. It's a big win for Kirby Smart. It's a big win for Georgia as a whole, and what they are pursuing to be another number 1 recruiting class in 2026. It's a huge add, a huge bolster to what is, again, shaping up to be a potential number 1 recruiting class. It's too early to tell, too early to determine whether or not it will make it all the way through as the number 1 class. But for right now, I like where they're at and where they're headed with what they're doing. Jared Curtis has vowed to be a huge piece in recruiting and marketing for the Bulldogs in terms of building the future of this team. And if that's the case, if he's the leader that people say he is, then by all means, it's probably going to happen. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because that's 2026 news, and that's news about next year's recruiting class, and we have really learned very little about 2025's recruiting class. So I'm going to push forward from that for now with minimum detail. Just know that he is committed to Georgia. He's going to be a big part of this recruiting class in terms of helping build future commitments, and it's noteworthy when we talk about early signing day, when we talk about signing day in February next year, where maybe Georgia collects that number 1 recruiting class and we get to look back on this commitment here and say that's where it happened. We'll move forward to Michigan and the Sherrone Moore suspension. It is beyond intriguing to me. I think that's the word I want to use. I mean, it's almost awe-inspiring in a sense. I mean, the audacity of Michigan and the internal suspension here to pick and choose the games. Central Michigan Game 3 and at Nebraska Game 4. Those are the 2 games that you will see Sherrone Moore not be on the sidelines. Don't know who the interim coach is going to be. I'll be interested to find out when that happens. But it makes you wonder a couple of things. Is there something more coming from the NCAA? I'm going to venture to say that we won't know in 2025, but this situation here might push there to be an answer in 2025. And why do I think that Michigan may have done this? What are they worried about? Well, what they're worried about is Sherrone Moore being suspended at a later time. Why are they worried about that? Because 2026 and beyond opens another championship window for the Michigan Wolverines. I think that 2025 Michigan's a playoff contender, and maybe not quite there. I mean, far be it for me to know. I haven't gotten there. I'm not going to sit here and act like I have. But what I can tell you is that there is potential, and I think a very legitimate potential, for 2026 and beyond to open up this window of, again, championship winning potential. And it could happen here too. I mean, I think that we got a really good glimpse of Wink Martindale finally finding his footing at the college level last year, the last handful of games. You watched him go in to Columbus and shut down the Ohio State offense. Granted, we can blame Chip Kelly all we want, but the biggest thing is that Chip Kelly's also not there anymore. And Wink Martindale has this huge experience advantage in calling plays over the new offensive coordinator at Ohio State, Brian Hartline. Wink Martindale also goes in and shuts down Kalen DeBoer's offense in Alabama and makes Jalen Milroe's day absolutely miserable, with large part the 2025 team out there on the field, especially the 2025 defense out there on the field. The bowl game was Alabama. Yeah, they were kind of going for broke. They were going out there with nothing to lose, but they still wanted to go win that game. They still wanted to go out on a high note. Jalen Milroe wanted to go out and put more film out there. That's why he played in the game. And instead, what happened was we got the result that we got, and which was Michigan's defense shutting down, making Jalen Milrow's day miserable, making their running game miserable, largely shutting down Ryan Williams. This was kind of a look ahead to what Michigan's going to be in 2025. And on top of that, you bring in, like, no matter what happens, I think you're going to have better quarterback play, which is a huge deal. I mean, that's part of the reason that Michigan lost 5 games last year. Michigan's a 10-2 team with a quarterback. And I'm not talking Davis Warren and saying he wasn't a quarterback. I'm not talking bad about Davis Warren. But I think we can all agree that Jack Tuttle, Davis Warren, Alex Orji, neither of them have the potential or the skills to be a championship winning quarterback. You have Bryce Underwood, who I think will be the starter for the majority of the year, if not the full season. You have Mikey Keene, who is a very experienced quarterback who, while people don't love the move, people, I think, underrate and undervalue what experience can mean to a team. And then you have Jaden Davis, who was the next big thing when he committed to Michigan and still has the potential to be that guy at Michigan. It's not a foregone conclusion that Jaden Davis just never starts at the university. Just because Bryce Underwood came in does not mean that Jaden Davis can't compete and win that job. So there's 3 quarterbacks. You have the running back room being the same. There's so many things with Michigan that will not change in 2025 and it'll probably make them closer to championship contender, but not there yet. But again, to get back on track here, 2026 and beyond opens a window of great opportunity. And you also bring in Smigel next year, another quarterback who's highly touted and highly sought after, who will just kind of plug and play whenever his time comes. Michigan wants to get ahead of this now. They don't want it to spill into 2026, 27, 28. You don't want it to happen that way. And truly, I think 2026 is probably as far as it'll go. If we don't have anything by the end of 26, it's not going to happen. But you don't want it to spill over into a potential championship winning season. The same way that 2023 was affected so greatly, 6 games without Jim Harbaugh, yet they still go on to win the championship. It doesn't always work out that way. And you don't want a season to be affected so majorly like that. So that's what I think is going to happen, and that's what I think is going on here. This is Michigan kind of playing their hand and being like, hey, look, we're making a move in 25. Why don't you make your move? Why don't you go ahead and get ahead of it, so that way people stop asking questions and we stop having to worry about what's going to happen and we can just know. If that's what it's going to be, smart move, great move, honestly. If it's not, then it is what it is, and we look into 2026 with the same exact questions we've had for the last 2 years now about what Michigan's going to be and when the NCAA, when the hammer's going to drop, in the words of the majority of the outside fan bases. We'll see. We will see is plainly the answer I can give you right now. But I think it's an interesting move. I think it's a bold strategy for Michigan. But in the interest of time and moving forward into today's topic, which I think has a lot of intrigue in its own right, we'll leave it there. We'll talk more about Michigan later on when we get into season previews. So I wanted to go into tonight, because it's 2 a.m. as I'm recording this. I wanted to go into this with an intent on capturing the players that you want to know this season. And I started this by going through the coaching changes. I started this by going through the transfer portal names. But what I didn't do, for a reason, was go through the top 10 lists. And it hit me that we did these last year. And I wanted to kind of take a look at how this changed last year from the Loudmouth panel to this year, just myself, and what I would do differently and what I saw that would make me think and feel differently. How am I grading these coaches? How am I going to grade these players? Well, for coaches, because that's where we're at, and that's probably the longer tenure out of anybody in most cases, it's what have you done in your career so far? Do you have a championship to your name? Do you have a a history of winning and building programs? Do you have, how do you recruit? How do you develop players? What's your portal usage look like? And is it appropriate portal usage, or is it just trying to go buy and win a championship and put a team together that never really works out? Again, do you win? Do you win football games? And it's not just do you win football games, but do you win the big games? Do you go into a top 5 matchup and put on a show and beat that team? Do you go into a top 25 matchup and take care of business more times than not, especially when you're a home team? Or do you kind of fold in the big moments? That determined some of these rankings. And then, of course, again, it's recent success. Recency bias is always going to play a factor, and it's top 5 or top 10 coaches going into the season. It's not what I predict you to do. It's what do I think the best coaches are right now. You may not agree with every single thing I say, but I will tell you that I have a reason for everything that I'm going to say today. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. I will let you know now that the 3 national championship winning head coaches career that are currently in college football are on the top 3 of this list. And I am going to go in that order because I think it gets a little more interesting the further you go down this top 10 than it does the further you go up the top 10. There is no graphic today. I could have, but I'm not going to. Or maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see what I do on the background of this. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it happens. But the top 10 coaches in 2025 from 1 to 10. Number 1, I put Kirby Smart. Yes, he has, no, he has not won a championship since back-to-back, but he did go back-to-back. Georgia is not going anywhere. Kirby Smart has put together team after team after team with fantastic results and dominating results in a lot of cases. Last year was probably the closest down to earth Georgia's been in a really long time. And I'm going to be honest with you. 2025 is probably going to look similar. Georgia's going to be a team that I think is in the playoff because they are built to last. They are built to be better than probably 95% of college football. But I don't have them as a favorite right now. Some people do, and that's totally fine, but I don't have them as one of my favorites right now. A story for another time. We'll get more into that again in prediction time. But Kirby Smart, however, still puts together a great football team, and he's going to get more out of this team than I think should probably be gotten. Kirby Smart is also, I think a great recruiter. He's putting together these programs, he's developing them really well, and when he uses the portal, he uses it for things that they need, positions of need. It's not going out and grabbing a whole team and putting, and they may put $40 million up on the plate, but they're not putting $40 million up on the plate to bring everybody in and go out and kind of just hodgepodge a team together. It's, what do we need? Typically, they're filling gaps at wide receiver. Typically, they're filling gaps in the secondary or at the line of scrimmage. They're not typically going after the big, high-end guys just to throw a team together, this all-star level team together, and go on and win games. Kirby Smart is at number 1 for me. Number 2 is Ryan Day. He has earned this spot. His winning percentage says it all, but he's also now a national championship winning head coach. He has now earned a little bit further this number 2 spot that we had him in last year. But beyond that, what does Ryan Day do? In most cases, he wins games that he is supposed to win. And if they lose a game, it's because it's a close game that they are evenly matched in. And you can't fault somebody for that. You can't fault Ryan Day for losing to Oregon last year. You can't fault Ryan Day for almost losing to Notre Dame a couple years ago, where they squeaked out in the final play. You can't blame him for losses to Michigan in 21 through 23. You can blame him for the loss last year if you really want to, but Michigan came in ready to go in Columbus and put enough on the table to go and win the game. Does it mean that Ryan Day is a lesser coach because he lost to Michigan? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, it's far from that. I think that Ryan Day is 100% a top 2 coach in the game, and you could argue any day with me that he's number 1, and there's days I'll probably agree, and there's days I probably won't. But the biggest thing for me is just the fact that the constant level of success year over year is there. It's just not as high as Georgia's has been to this point. Doesn't mean it can't be, doesn't mean it won't be. It just hasn't happened yet. Number 3 is Dabo Swinney. Again, the top 3 are reserved for championship winning head coaches, but Dabo Swinney has extracted everything he could from every single team he's had over the last decade. And, we've talked about Clemson kind of falling off, kind of going back down to earth. And it almost feels like they're picking up steam again to go do it. I mean, they're the favorite team that's not in the ACC, they are the favorite team that's not in the Big Ten or the SEC to go win a national championship. And they're up there with Notre Dame as the 2 who are the favorites to do that. Everybody else is projected favorite, Big Ten and SEC. Swinney has a great team coming in, by the way. That defense is looking fantastic. If you haven't taken a look at the roster, go take a look at it. They're going to be lights out defensively. Then you have Cade Klubnik, who I may have just been a little bit ahead on and predicting him to win the Heisman in 2022. He might be a favorite. He might be the best quarterback in college football. I don't know. Especially given what's returning, he may be the best quarterback in college football. What Dabo has done on top of that is continue to develop. His only downfall, and the only reason that he's not closer to number 1 and number 2, is because he's not using the portal. Now, he did this year. He brought in 3 transfers that they needed, 3 positions of need, used it effectively. But it's all development at Clemson. It hasn't been going out and grabbing somebody and saying, hey, look, we need you here. They could have used a running back last year. We're going to be honest. If they were running back away from a national championship winning team, potentially, or a national championship competing team, I guess. Dabo's got a really good team going into this year, and I think that he's a large part of it. I don't think that Clemson's where they are without Dabo Swinney. And, I mean, obviously revisionist history would be interesting to say. But, I mean, who predicted that Clemson would still be here and now be, again, a favorite, probably a top 10 team right now? I haven't looked at betting odds, I'm sorry. Probably a top 10 team and betting odds to win a championship, win a natty. I mean, why would we not have Dabo Swinney up here on the list? Number 4, 4 through 7 were probably as close as it could have got for me. The reason that they were so close is because these 4 coaches have all kind of improved recently, together. And the biggest thing that helped one over the other is how long have they been doing it? How well are they doing? And how are they set up for the future as of right now? My answer to that question was that Steve Sarkisian has put together an amazing program at Texas. Steve Sarkisian has done a great job recruiting. He's using the portal extremely well, and he's done so for a while now, filling in gaps. He's not overdoing it, but they're not underdoing it. They're doing everything just right, and they're developing players really well to the point where they are a national championship favorite in 2025. There's the true reason that Sarkisian goes above the next 3 is because he has had his team in a competitive spot for longer. He is, and you can see that steady increase. I'll talk about the other ones here in just a second. But Steve Sarkisian in the 2025 has the potential to add his name to a list of national championship winning head coaches. The other 3 do as well. At number 5, I have Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman is slowly but surely becoming the head coach to play for in college football. And he's doing it through recruiting, but we've also seen Marcus Freeman do it by development on the field, using the portal where he needs to use the portal. Let's not mistake that the last couple of years, Sam Hartman and Riley Leonard have come over to this program to be the experienced pieces and the experienced leaders on the team. This year, it's looking like CJ Carr is going to be his guy, and that's a homegrown talent going in the South Bend and going to try and see what he can do. But there's a constant level of state of improvement. There is a point now where Marcus Freeman's put Notre Dame in a position to be a national championship winning team. I think that how quickly he's done it and how effectively he's done it and setting this team up for the future is a big reason that I put Marcus Freeman at number 5. Now, he could be interchanged here with Dan Lanning at 6. I love what Dan Lanning's doing. I think he's doing a little too much with the portal, personally. That's just me. The one thing that I have yet to see from either of those two that puts them behind Sark is development of a quarterback. Marcus Freeman has utilized a couple of transfer quarterbacks to this point. Dan Lanning has utilized transfer quarterbacks to this point. A lot of the guys that have become stars, though, for Notre Dame have been homegrown. You could look at the secondary pieces that they've had over the last couple of years, Xavier Watts, Benjamin Morrison. Notre Dame has done a really good job of putting together their own defensive talent. And even offensively, Marcus Freeman's put together a lot of really good players. But the one place and position that both are similar on is quarterback. Dan Lanning, on the other hand, the biggest reason that I'm not there yet is because Marcus Freeman just took his team to a national championship appearance. Dan Lanning got blown out in his playoff appearance. That is what separates them at 5 and 6. And the reason, even more so, both their losses were to the same team, and one team was way more competitive than the other. Yeah, Oregon beat Ohio State in Autzen. Ohio State came in more prepared and dominated Oregon from the minute that the ball was kicked off in the Rose Bowl. That right there is the only reason that Freeman is ahead of Lanning. At 7, James Franklin. You could put him higher if you want to. The overall body of success, the 3 in front of him have done it faster, have put themselves in national championship contention faster than James Franklin. What James Franklin has done, though, is put himself a team together that is a favorite for a national championship this year. And I'm going to be honest, they might be my preseason number 1 team. I love what Penn State is going into 2025. If they've answered the questions correctly at wide receiver, this is a championship winning roster that they've put together. They're doing everything really smart. And to be honest, people can talk about them losing Tom Allen. People can be a little concerned about that. And by the way, Tom Allen's going to Clemson to help that defense out. But they can be worried about that. I don't think it's going to matter. This Penn State team, James Franklin's career, has built up to this moment. People have wondered if he was going to be able to get it done. People wondered if that 2016 team that got snubbed out of the playoffs after winning the Big Ten title could have done it. People wonder if Penn State should have beat Notre Dame last year. What we do know is there's another chance to find out. A lot of the same players and talent come back. Obviously, you lose Abdul Carter, you lose Tyler Warren. That's a big deal. But if you play your cards right and you fill them right, this is a heavy favorite for a championship appearance at a minimum. Number 8, I'm going to put Brian Kelly. I think that Brian Kelly has this thing for trying to do too much. And you can say what you want about him as a person. I don't rightly care, to be honest, about what you think of him as a person. What we know of him as a head coach is that he gets the job done and that his teams win. Things have not gone quite as smoothly at LSU, and honestly, if they have been as smooth as they should be, Brian Kelly would probably be a top 5 coach right now. The reason for that were some mistakes early in his tenure at LSU. Of course, he had one of the worst defenses early. Took a while for Blake Baker's defense to set up at LSU last year. Brian Kelly has this potential to be a top 5 coach. He should be a top 5 coach. He's just not. I'm hesitant, and I think that part of this list is me looking at this and saying, who do I think of first when I'm talking closest to the best? And early returns at LSU have not been quite what I expected them to be or would have maybe even liked them to be. So Brian Kelly sits at 8. It's not a bad spot. 8 of 136. That's not a bad spot. But I digress. I know that LSU fans are going to be upset with me, and that's okay. At number 9, I got Brett Bielema. And I know that's going to come as a surprise, but the overall body of work in his career can't be outdone. Nobody has matched the level of success at Wisconsin that Brett had. Not a single person. You can't convince me that anybody has been able to do that and consistently. The Arkansas tenure didn't go great, but it wasn't terrible. But what he's done is come back to Illinois and put Illinois in a position where they are a playoff contender. Everybody is all over Illinois for being last year's Indiana. And maybe that could happen. Again, I haven't gotten into the weeds on whether or not I think that they should be a playoff team. I don't really like to do that in May. But what I will like to do is tell you that I think that they do have a really good team coming back, and they return a lot of production from last year. And Brett Bielema does a great job of just getting the most out of every single player on the team. He knows exactly where and how all 22 players need to be, as do the 8 ahead of him. But the difference being, he's doing it at Illinois. He did it at Wisconsin. He did it at Arkansas. Granted, not to the level of success that Arkansas fans would have liked, but he did do it at Arkansas. I think there should be no question about his ability to be a head coach. And I don't think there should be a question about his place as a top 15 coach. I just so happen to think he belongs in the top 10. Therefore, Brett Bielema is there. At number 10, I had a bit of an interesting dilemma here. Do I go with Lane Kiffin? Do I put Kyle Whittingham on the list? What about Kurt Cignetti? I mean, he's brought Indiana to a playoff appearance. 11-1 in the regular season. That's the best season Indiana's ever had. So what should I do? The answer to that question was Kyle Whittingham. The reason I went with Kyle Whittingham is because of the success time and time again and the ability to work through any issue that is ever put his direction. They can deal with quarterback issues. They can deal with continuity issues through this transfer portal era. They can deal with whatever they have been faced with, and they take it and they run with it as it is presented to them. And there's always this level of success that comes with it. No, Utah's not a powerhouse. No, Utah's not a blue blood, and they are certainly not a team that's going to go and win a national championship anytime soon. But what I do like is the opening up that he's done to the transfer portal. The development that he's had in his own program for years. For 20 years, Kyle Whittingham has done everything necessary to succeed at Utah. And to be at a program for that long and to do it as well as he's done it, he is deserving of a top 10 spot. There's not many people that I'm going to sit back and vouch for the way I will with Kyle Whittingham, because I think that he's truthfully one of the best. I will say, I'm not going to say top 10, but I do think that Kyle Whittingham is a top 25 head coach of all time in college football. And I think that if we were to take a step back and really look at what he's been able to do, and look at the injuries and the lack of, again, the lack of ability at times to maybe even field skill position players. I mean, hell, they were putting a safety at running back last year. They had to drop down and put a wide receiver at quarterback a couple years ago. I mean, this team has been bit by the injury bug for 3 straight years now, and Kyle Whittingham has still put them in contention to compete for championships and bowl wins. It's really impressive. I hate that his career is kind of coming to an end the way it has, because it's almost dampening if you don't know the true stories behind everything that's happened for them. But Kyle Whittingham, and what some may have rumored to be his last season, I think is a top 10 head coach in college football. Other names just left out. I talked about Lane Kiffin. I talked about Kurt Cignetti. Kalen DeBoer, I think, is a head coach that is right on the cusp. I mean, he was a top 10 coach for us last year. He brought Washington to a national championship. We may have overreacted to it, but he was in our list, and I thought deservedly so. I thought 2024 wasn't as bad as people wanted it to be or said it should have been. It just wasn't as good as Alabama standards have placed, but how can you follow up Nick Saban? It's hard to. He brings in Ryan Grubb. He's doing a really good job, I think, of utilizing the portal, but trying to develop his own players. He brought guys with him that would fit into the system. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be, and quarterback play this year may be what we need to say, hey, look, Kalen DeBoer is a top 10 head coach in college football. He just wasn't there right now. Another guy for me that was kind of on the edge was Chris Kleiman. I think Chris Kleiman has done fantastic at K-State and keeping them relevant and keeping them in contention for conference championships and over there in the Big 12. He's easily one of my favorite coaches currently in the sport. I'm excited to see what he could do because he was a part of this list last year. He fell off of the list a little bit just due to, I would say, lack of success, lack of the team living up to the standard that I thought they might. But this is a good team, and I'm excited to see where they're at in 2025 too. So let me know, who am I missing on this list? I'm sure I'm going to get some Lane Kiffins, and that's all right. But let me know who we're missing. And as always, please leave a like, subscribe, comment down below if you made it this far in the video. I appreciate y'all tuning in and spending your time here listening to me babble on about college football. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, announcement coming tomorrow. It's fairly obvious what the announcement is going to be for those who have kind of been privy to what things I've been thinking about and trying to do here lately. But yeah, we'll have that. We'll also have top 10 quarterbacks coming out tomorrow. So I'm excited to put that list together. I think I've got it together, as a matter of fact, as of right now recording it. Maybe one or two slight changes that I make. But I really, really like the way it came out. I really think that it could be the status quo for the season. So I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are too. And again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.